have Sara here for your model and cash flow this week, and let's get started. Thank you, Sara.
Great. I'm really excited about this session. My handouts are not as extensive as Richard's and may not be as pretty as some of the stuff that Eric probably brought last week. But this is one of my favorite topics. And when we put this session together, the goal was in the beginning that we would say, what do I want my business to be like? If I built a job, if I built a business, and then you would really think about what you wanted that to be. And then you would go back and you'd say, now that I know kind of who I want to be, how big? What are my goals? And you'd think about goals and things that you wanted to accomplish. And then last week you would meet with Eric and you would really talk about, what's my message? What makes me special? And then today what we're going to talk about is, now that I know what makes me special and who I want to serve, how do I make money? How do I make money? How do I maximize cash flow? And then next week we have a special guest. My lawyer is coming. She's a CPA and a lawyer. Bernie invited her to help you look at a couple of things so you can prepare for the end of the year. And after Joanne is here, then we'll take a look at that message and this model and everything, and then say, how do I move that out to my ideal prospect? I hope that today when we talk about money, what you'll do is you'll look back at all the things that you've been working on and say, now that I'm talking about cash flow, do I need to tweak my message? Do I need to make a few changes so that when you meet with Eric again on the next time, and he's talking about this whole picture and moving it out so that people are getting your message, that you'll be ready for that. So I have these handouts here, and I'll give them all to you. But there's three things that we're gonna talk about today. In your business, how do you monetize your goods and services? How do you make money off of what you do? How do you bill your clients? Is it serving you and serving them? And are you leaving money on the table? Okay, so revenue model is defined by Wikipedia as the way that people monetize their business, the way you monetize your services. So before we actually go into this piece, if James, if I could get you to do this, hand this handout around. So we're actually going to start with an exercise that looks like this. This is you, and this is your customer or your client. And in the middle here, in this circle, I want you to take a few minutes at your table to start to write down what is the value that you currently bring to your clients and customers. What is it you do that they find value in? Is it the way that you greet them at the door? So I'm going to give you a few minutes to write down the things that you do that are valuable to your customers, and then I'll call time on that, and then I'm going to ask you to talk about those things at your table. And then we'll come back to this next place of monetizing what it is that we do. I think what was pretty interesting, Richard, when you were writing stuff down, and Joe, when I came by your table, Richard was saying, wow, what is this about value? So can you share with the group a little bit about what came up for you, and then what was the number one thing you wrote on your paper?
I suggested that we might do a whole session like this on the question of what is value, as seen from the customer and as seen from your organization. And when you start approaching that, my experience for the last 40 or 50 years was value means financial or transactional value, dollars and cents, right? I get what I pay for. Or maybe I had a good deal. I've learned in the past 4 or 5 years, though, that's less than half the whole deal, that the big part is the emotional side of the deal. How do you feel about doing business with that person? How do you feel about how they treated you, the environment? It's all transactions are emotional. And I think we overlook that in the pursuit of how can we get it cheap. And so that's what I was asking Sarah about, is value meaning what?
So I thought that was a good point to bring in, because before we talk about how we monetize, so I put up here, my note from Richard was transactional versus product. And what did you throw out there?
I wrote the first word down, transactional value, but I said, wait a minute, there's something missing. And I just put on number 5, I just put smile.
Smile.
I found customers that just sometimes just want someone to talk to.
So notice I'm going to put that over here in this category, and this is where I'm going to brag on Yasmin. Okay, and Joyce, who was our receptionist at Lakewood Ranch before Yas came to be with us. I remember coming in one day, and I was driving, and I was thinking, I'm going to see Joyce when I walk in. And it just, did you ever think about that? Did it just make you happy to walk in to see Joyce? Right? And so what happened is Vina was sitting there. And I love Vina. But it wasn't Joyce. And there was something that happened when you would walk in. And one of the value propositions that I think that Comm Center brings to us is that I have a team of people that help me solve problems. And some days, do you ever go out and meet with clients and meet with prospects? And it's not always fun, is it? And there is actually something that neurochemically happens in your brain when somebody is really glad to see you. And when I walked in, and it wasn't that Vina didn't smile at me, but it really was kind of a real thing. I walked in, and I was happy to see her, but I had this conditioned response that when I would walk into comm centers and I would see Joyce, she just brought me joy. And those, you guys know that, right? And I went to Bernie and I said, for small business people, as we face the challenges of our day, a lot of times you're alone, or you have a very small team, and that piece of walking in and seeing Joyce. So when Bernie was looking for, see, I feel like it's part of team. When we were looking for somebody new, we have a couple of people who have helped out at the front desk. But see, when you would walk in, actually, I'll use this about Yas. What happens is when the door opens at Lakewood Ranch, whether she's sitting here or she's sitting over there, what Yasmin does is she looks up. And she smiles before we even walk around. She's looking for me to come around. In contrast, there was somebody who sat there one time who was working, and when I would come around, would look up. Totally different feeling. So for those of you who are in Lakewood Ranch, did any of you notice that? Yes. So part of the value proposition that maybe on my invoice it doesn't say smile, welcome. It doesn't say that on my invoice, but this is a huge part of a value proposition, and it's tied into the monetization of what Comm Center provides, whether it's for virtual clients or whatever. But this is something that is that you only notice when it's not there. And then the other piece is did probably put it on our list, and I'm not up here that much, but when I walked out the other day, the orchids in the window. Did anybody else notice those? How did you feel?
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Oh, you just felt like a different piece of living art. And that's part of the value proposition that ties in. It means, so close your ears, Bernie. It means he could charge more money. He really could, because the value that he provides to us is there's a tangible benefit in a mailbox and a phone number and all those things. But there's something that gives us more value that means that he's not competing. So we can look at the value, the phone box and the phone box, the post box and the phone number. You can get a post box at Postnet or UPS or something like that. So that price point that's apples to apples. But the fact that when I get an email when my stuff comes, now maybe Postnet or UPS does that, but I get an email when there's a package. Somebody personally holds it for me. If for some reason I can't get there before 5, they'll put it in my office space so that I can get it afterwards. I walk in and there's candy on the desk. People greet my clients like they greet me. This part never appears on our bill. But, and maybe we don't, as like Richard was saying, maybe we don't realize that in our companies on how we put value together. But for those of us who so we're celebrating the choices that Bernie brought in hires. And you can find people that are very skilled, but that smile, and you can even find people that smile well, but somebody who looks up and smiles is not the same as somebody that's waiting for you to come in, that's working, they hear the door open and they're expectant. That's totally different. So that was the contribution from this table. And I think that when we talk about monetization, a lot of times we get stuck in this transactional product. Somebody just buys this, and your last sheet that I gave you, so I'll skip ahead on that because since Richard brought it up, is if everything's equal, it's all about price. It's all about discounted services. And I don't know about you guys, but do any of you want to compete on cheap? No, I don't want to compete on cheap. I want my clients to feel great about what I do. I want to walk away and feel good at the end of the day. And I don't want to have to be skimping corners and trying to be, let me see if I can get them like this, or I can cut these corners. I may help them depending on their budget get what they need, but I never want to feel like the work that I do is less than. Yes?
I don't know if this fits here, but one thing I know is in certain businesses you'll find out, they're not every business, not every business is the same. So I know as far as printing, I could go up to an established company, because I used to give out 20% off discount coupons freely. I used to put free business cards in the Alliance welcome center. No one ever turned in one of those things. I got to the point where I felt I could go up to a company and say, I'll give you 50% off on your next print order if you order it with me, and they wouldn't do it. If they're satisfied with the service that they've got, somehow, if they feel welcome and warm in that space, they're not that willing to switch.
So I think and we're going to talk about that, is we're going to talk about what differentiates you in value, and that's what changes. So let me put this back. Right color. So we don't forget that, because we're going to come back to that. Okay, this table, what did you guys come up with? Now that I bragged on Bernie.
Thank you.
So did you guys notice anything when you were writing down your value things? Did you go, oh wow, is this a challenge, or how do we really provide value to our customers?
Well, I guess you're kind of along the same lines, because we said that offering trust and integrity are more important than the product.
Mm-hmm. So people feel safe with you. Mm-hmm. And your business is all about being safe, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah, you said that the knowledge, the experience, the trust, my attitude is that their problem is my problem. That's what the customer feels.
Ah, that's good. Yes.
I echoed to Hassan that I knew him before I wanted a fingerprint key service.
Mhm.
I didn't even know that it existed until I asked him what he did. But after he explained what he did, it did not occur to me to price out. It did not occur to me to get another price, because I already knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I understood what he sold, I wanted one.
So
I got from Joe, I want to stay on for
Yeah.
a second. I got from Joe, there's something enjoyable about, or it can be enjoyable about the buying experience. It's not all hard work of getting the cheapest thing or something like that. I think we want to enjoy making a purchase, not just
did you guys get over here?
I think honesty was a big one that I heard it over and over again, that we're honest, integrity, that you can trust us. And I think that's why a lot of people.
Okay. And then you didn't put down the stuff I said about you on your list, did you?
Yes, you
I
did.
actually said, warm and welcome greeting makes them feel happy to be in your place, in your presence, and integrity and honesty creates trust and gives people a feeling of safety. You want them to feel safe with you, and that they're coming to you because they don't have what you have.
Right.
So that's we're offering something that they need.
You solve problems.
Mhm.
I know for me, I didn't want to meet at Starbucks anymore. I know so many people, it's really hard to have a meeting at Starbucks. And personally, if you have, who has bigger ticket item sales? You do. Oh yeah, when you're talking about a business brokerage deal, is that the kind of check that somebody writes at a Starbucks?
No.
No, not at all. Do you have is it just you, or do you have a bigger staff?
It's my boss who comes in every other month, and then we have an office in Louisiana that has 6 people that I rely on
For a lot of admin type executive stuff. Great. So I mean, theoretically, you could be virtual, and there's probably people who do that, but meeting at Starbucks leaves something, or at a restaurant leaves something to be desired, and there is a lack of image and an ability to say, if you don't take yourself seriously, how can I take you seriously? So what did you guys come up with at this table?
We talked about sometimes clients they come in saying they want to buy a feature, but we're really selling a benefit type of thing.
Right.
James came up with and said we have meeting rooms. Okay, you have meeting rooms. It's kind of a feature. There are a lot of people around that have meeting rooms, but the benefit is that you have meeting rooms that are convenient, accessible. You have good staff. You have support services and all that. That's really what you're selling. Benefit or feature.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about people at Lakewood Ranch. We actually said, and there's only one James.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want to make you feel bad, but the other piece, he knows I love him. The other piece is, when James answers the phone, and actually Stan said he was going by the front desk one day, and James was there, and he said, "Yes, sir, I will take care of that right now. I'll take care of that right now. Not when I get around to it or whatever." And he took care of it right now. So this is solving problems, handling challenges. So CommCenter is a great example of that value, because we walk in this every day. Yes, Richard.
Don't mean to interrupt. As I look at that core around value that you've generated, one word to me pulls it all together, and that's relationship. When you're in business, it's one thing to make the sale. It's a different thing to cultivate an ongoing long-term relationship. And that's where we want to go, I think. Are we?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because just yesterday, I was sharing with Vicki. I had met with a client, and he'd ordered a bunch of shirts embroidered, and I called him back later, and I said, hey, I was looking at your order, and you've got a total of 28 pieces total. It would really help me out if you would add 20 hats onto that order. And he said, well, I ordered 10 screen printed hats. Can you, switch those over to embroidered? And I gave him a price on them, and he said, okay. I mean, the whole conversation, it was a $200 sale, wasn't big, was less than 20 seconds. Had to be the fastest or quickest sale I've ever made in my life. Less than 20 seconds. And it was all because of relationship.
So I think, go ahead. Sure, say
The
something.
image that comes to my mind in some class I took, in business, we think of customers coming into our place, and that's the wrong approach. It's, what if you were at home and you were inviting a friend in? How would you treat that friend?
Mm-hmm.
That's the relationship part of it.
So,
It's not,
go
it's
ahead.
not the relationship, it's the trust. You could have bad relationship.
Let's put that up there.
It's not because of it's the good, it's the trust. That
Yes.
he knows that if you give him an advice, you are giving him for the best of his best interest.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would qualify it to be good.
So the negative part of that is when I lose a job and I realize it's because I had a bad relationship with that customer. So you know that could
So-
go both ways.
What I love about teaching this class is that I can allow it to go where you go. So, and before we do our next exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to flip through these other pages, because what happens a lot of time when we talk about monetizing your business is it becomes a transaction, a single transaction with a good or a service. Okay, and we talk about leaving money on the table, and we talk about value. The reason I wanted you guys to write down value is because typically when we talk about monetizing your business, somebody goes, I sell widget A. And to make more money, I obviously have to sell more widget A's. Well, maybe you do. Richard brought up one of the things that he wants to share as we go forward. If you haven't read this, it's called E-Myth. Has anybody seen this? Yes. So in here, in E-Myth, there's a story about a girl who has a pie shop, okay? And so we'd very easily be able to say a pie is a widget A, so she sells pies. And that's usually what our conversation is. But the truth is that she sells pies, and she sells tea, and she sells coffee, and she might have some biscuits on the side or some scones. And then she may have some people that could come in the evening one evening and have kind of like maybe a book club type thing, and she would serve coffee. There are all kinds of things that could tie into the way she sells pies. But typically when we talk about revenue, we look at a transaction or a product. And if you're going to increase revenue, and you're talking about a transaction or a product, it's kind of like when your business relies completely on the amount of time that you put into it, which takes us back to a job. If my business only works when I work in it, I've created for myself a job because it's directly tied to my time. If my revenue in my business is tied directly to a sale of widget A, widget A, widget A, widget A, the only way I can increase my income is to sell more widget A's. And if I do those one at a time, that's pretty hard. And if your widget is a small widget, if you have a $20 sale and that's predominantly what your business has been built on, and you're doing those one at a time, that's hard. If it's a $200 sale and you're doing them one at a time, okay? And especially, imagine how long does it take? So Eric had, he's talking about a $200 sale that he did, and it was tied into a 20-second, 30-second conversation. Hey, can we switch this out? Da-da-da-da. Great, yeah, I trust you, take care of it. But our first-time sales don't typically go like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're consistently working on doing first-time sales and is selling one box of business cards, or it's getting one here, if you get a virtual client who only comes in for 1 month, you know how long it takes to go, that's a brutal way to live. So what I really wanted you to begin to understand is that there's a whole lot more here. So if you flip to the second page, we're going to talk about this a little bit at our tables, and then we're going to go back and we're going to attack each one of our models and say, am I just going to sell pies? Or can I sell pies and tea and coffee? I'm typically closed on Sunday, but if there's if it's Mother's Day, could I have a special ladies function where mothers and daughters come in and I provide this special thing? What are the other ways that I can monetize what providing value to my clients? And the piece is, like what Bernie said here about Hassan, is that because he trusts who Hassan is, that he knows that he has integrity and value and he's conscientious about his work. He didn't even know what he did, but he knew who he was as a person. He didn't have to go price shop around because he didn't expect Hassan to be the cheapest, and he didn't expect him to be the most, he didn't expect him to be, that's incorrect. He didn't expect him to be overpriced. He expected that whatever Hassan does is done with value and integrity and is reasonably priced with excellent value. And so he didn't have to price shop because he knew who you were as a human being, and he expected who you were as a human being to translate in the way that you did your business and the products that you sold. Is that correct, Bertie? Did I?
Yes.
Cool. All right, so we're going to turn to the next page, okay? Because I don't want you to think about your business as a single transaction. So I'm going to share a little story about one of my clients who, she does web development. And you've heard me talk about the person that came in after 13 years of doing business and was overwhelmed and was like, oh my gosh, I just can't do this anymore. And we went to put systems and processes and all these things in. Well, one of the challenges she had is that some of her clients, their business is seasonal. So her real estate agents, typically it's a little slower for them in the summer. And once September comes, if they need to do website updates or things like that, it's not really a good time because season is coming and now they're busy. So what she did is we went through her client list of longstanding clients and we identified when the seasons were in their business, because a lot of times with our clients, their lack of planning constitutes an emergency on our behalf. They call us and they go, oh my gosh, can you do this? Right? Has anybody had one of those? So what we did is we looked at her clients and we sorted them into buckets, not only by size, but of the industries that they're in. So if you have a client, for example, who sells a product or a service that's really busy at Christmas, well, you don't want to take on a new project with them in November. Or they may come to you in November, October and say, hey, can you fix this? But then it's stressful for you and for them. Now, if you have a relationship with this person and you say in June or July, depending on how your schedule works, you know, in November, you are going to want this, this, and this. And so to help make it so that you are not stressed and we are prepared and you're getting the maximum amount of value for the investment that you make in your marketing, I'd like to have us sit down with you and talk about what are your goals and objectives in finishing out the year, how do you want your holiday season, and let's do this before. And what happens is, because in this sales process, I don't know about any of you, but I have this thing called production time. Do you? Yeah. I mean, it takes time. Now, if I'm just meeting with a client here, if I'm meeting with James right now, and there's no production involved to this project, the meeting's done. But for a lot of my clients, I have work to do after I leave them. And so one of those clients that comes in and says, hey, and throws a monkey wrench in, then it can mess everything up. So I want you to take a look at this. And this sheet here talks about if you have clients that stay with your product or service, one of the questions is how do you bill? And how do you move from one season or project to the next? Do you have clients that are on monthly? Are they on a project by project? Do they have annual things? How do you upgrade them from one service to the next? And how do you help them do that? Are they seasonal? So in print, you're probably going to be hugely busy coming up. Maybe, maybe not, depending on who the predominant industries are. So take a few minutes at your table and let's talk about what types of clients you have. Where do they fit? Do you ever have those last minute crises? And who are those last minute crisis people? Where do they fit in here? So take a few minutes and we'll come back to that. Who has just one-time sales where you sell something and you never see the person ever again? Oh, great. Nobody does.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So,
Yeah, a lot of home remodel kinds of things. Build a swimming pool, probably a one-shot deal.
that would be sad if it's a one-shot deal. Okay? So I'm going to put up something here, and then we're going to talk about seasonal. And I have a client in real estate, and he has a conversation called Real Estate Made Simple. And actually, I'm going to have him start speaking other places and not talking about real estate, but simply talking about COI. Does anybody? Center of Influence. And so I thought that this was pretty interesting because Kano does this talk on what center of influence means to your business. And he said most real estate agents are simply looking for the next sale, and they never really understand center of influence. And so then he's got a beautiful spreadsheet on that. So if I meet Yaz and she's going to sell her house and I build a relationship with her, over the course of the next 20 years, how many times is she going to buy or sell a house based on the average price of a house and the average price of commission? And if I continue my relationship with her, what that means, what the cost of acquisition for that client is, what the benefit is to me, and how that, oh, that's okay, Bernie, and how that continues on. So none of you really have a one shot and done. You know, and if I were a pool builder, I would still keep in touch periodically with that person. I would develop strategic partnerships with people who service pools. And I wouldn't want the client that I just built their pool, I wouldn't want them to feel obligated to take who I referred, but I would provide them with the names of 2 to 3 companies that I knew personally well who could deliver and did great service. Okay? And if they ever had a question about their pool, and then I don't know how often it is, but periodically you have to have pool repairs. And every, 15 years or something, they resurface. And then I might work with, if I'm putting in a pool, I would probably work with somebody who did pavers and that sort of thing, because when you put in a pool, you typically put in pavers and landscaping. So I would have actual partners that I referred business to that I would get a commission from, okay? And if I vetted those partners, so I knew that those partners did great work, and like Bertie said about Hassan, that they were integral and they did great work, and I could count on them, then instead of my client working with me just to buy a pool, I would help them be able to put together that package. I would help them solve problems. And because they trusted me and they knew that the work I did was good and that I took ownership over the whole project, even if I wasn't directly responsible for the delivery on each piece, I would take ownership with the other people that I worked with. And periodically I would follow up with that person and say, it's been 10 years since we put your pool in. I was just wondering, is it something that you put do you just put the cover over it now because your kids are grown up and you don't use it anymore? Or are you still enjoying it? Yes.
Or, hey, it's been 5 years, there's brand new technology that you could add that would do things automatically instead of you having to do them manually. Why don't we talk about that?
So this piece about relationships and nobody in here has a one time and it's done. But how many people keep contact with those clients? Or you do. Or how many people, like we were talking over here with Joe, okay, and helping to explain this thing about seasons, and so the conversation is that no matter how it transforms your project with your client. Okay, so if he has a client that's coming in for trade shows, if I were a printer, I would have this conversation with my clients. They said, this last year a couple of times, and I'm not sure why, but we were working on a project. It was at the last minute. It was stressful, and I really want to provide the best value for you. And I know that when we're working at the last minute, that sometimes I have to send you a proof and you have to get it back to me, and there's all this stuff going on. You're getting ready to go to this trade show, or you have this thing over here, and the last thing I want to do is be one of those things that you remember as the person who deals with the whatever fires you're putting out. I want to help you put those fires out before they happen. So when you sign up to do a trade show, I'm asking you, can I be the first person you call? And that way, 6 months before we get there, we can talk about these things and we can figure out how to maximize your return on investment in that trade show. And that way, when it's time to go to that show, there's always going to be fires. But you can focus on those fires and I won't be one of them. You know? And see, now I've eliminated that production challenge of the fire at the last minute. Okay. I have an idea when my client's trade shows can be pretty, unless they come up with a new one that they've never done before, they're going to be pretty much at the same time. You know, the events happen, you know, if they have an event that's in April, you know that in January, or that event, maybe it's a last minute one, but typically they've already signed up by January. They may have signed up last year. So what it does is then I can work that into my schedule. I can help them have a better experience. That's my job. Look at where they really find value. And so I facilitate that relationship. I'm not a printer who just prints a product. I don't. You work in insurance, right, Renee? Absolutely. I had a company that I worked with insurance. This is a while ago. I had homeowners insurance with that. My homeowners insurance was canceled because I had a trampoline. I didn't know my homeowners insurance was canceled. The agent never even called me. Have you ever gone to thought you had insurance, or you thought you had something, and the policy was over and it needed to be renewed? This person would have had money if they would have just called me. Do you know what I mean? I have another client that I work with. They have somebody on their staff, and I'm like, they're supposed to be. It has to do with scheduling. All this person would have to do is call somebody back, and it would mean money in their pocketbook. I don't know. I personally call people back, especially if they're going to hand me checks. But you know when your renewals are, right? With a lot of different things. So we're looking at this. You know, is it a project-to-project basis? You know, when I work with a client, so I don't know how this works in your business, but I work on development projects. And what used to happen to me, and so this means more revenue to me, and it means that I better serve my clients, is now I do an assessment. Because what would happen before is I would end up, when I started with a project, I couldn't give them a price. Because everybody wants to know the price. Well, I couldn't give them a price because I didn't know what I was walking into. Have you ever had that? And so you're doing all this preliminary work. And as you do this preliminary work, you go, oh my God, it just keeps going on. And you haven't gotten paid for anything yet. So what I started doing was doing assessments. And I have different size of assessments. I have a small business one, I have one that's a little bit bigger, and then depending on the project. So I have 3 different types of assessments. And so that gives me the opportunity to go in and really scope out the project. And I give those results to the client. Now, if they choose not to work with me, that's okay. But it means I can put that preliminary work in, and I'm getting paid for it. And the client gets that information. And I feel better about it. So I encourage my clients that have development projects like that to actually go in and put a preliminary fee on for an assessment. So you have this. I mean, in selling a business, you know, I have people that come to me and they want to find funding for their business. They want you to take an equity stake too. And they want you to send this around to all their investors, and they tell me that their business is great. And then you get into the project and you go, oh my God, nobody's going to fund this. The solution isn't scalable, and I don't know any of those pieces. So this piece about seasonal, monthly. And I have an upgrade here. So I was speaking in Tallahassee this last weekend, and there's a gentleman, and so we were talking about the fact that he has he has a technology product that people that have not-for-profits, that have silent auctions use. And people are maybe a little hesitant the first time about licensing the product. So a lot of times they come in and maybe they'll try it here, one time. And he was talking about somebody when he was first beta testing that he did it for free, and now they're like, it's fully functional, it's up and running, and they're like, well, you should just keep doing it for free. We're not for profit. Now they make $100,000 in their silent auction. They get paid. So we were talking about how do you do that? And I said, this person, if they don't value, walk away. And for somebody who's new, maybe give them a test piece. They could try it out for this one and then take the cost of that and apply it towards the licensing so they have full access. And he's like, wow, I didn't think about that. Now, that would provide value to his client. It would help them put them in a subscription model where he could have an annual renewal or a quarterly renewal. Okay, so project, annual, upgrade, seasonal, monthly. Okay, center of influence. Going back to your clients, because Joe's project moved from being this piece here where he sells printing to being a center of influence who has a relationship that then facilitates, solves problems for his clients. That it totally changes the ballgame, doesn't it? I'm not here at Com Center because I get a post box. I didn't know I was going to like the post box so much. I didn't know that I was going to, yes, I really came kind of because it was the virtual type thing. But now that I'm here, I have an incredible different value proposition. And now we've watched Bernie launch Comtank, which brings a whole different value. Like Tom, you were talking about, I've known Tom for forever, 2006, 2007. That's a while now. For me, it is. Because I didn't network locally before that, but I haven't seen him this much in quite a while. So the pieces is we're developing different value propositions. So did you guys get something really cool from your table on the seasonal cycle, how do you build type piece? Yes, Bernie.
I thought Renee had something interesting because they are an insurance agency that has lots of transactions.
Mm-hmm.
But then I found out that last year they had to do a major project for a major company.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a couple months of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of taken aback a little bit the amount of risk that they have to take to commit all of their time on a up or out type sale. That must be scary to launch it.
So could you share just a little bit about that?
Okay. Well, most of the transactions we do are really quick and they're smaller, but for the really big ones, and we're talking like $130,000, $140,000 in insurance premiums. It's a lot of applications, a lot of work with the underwriters, and to make sure we have exactly everything they need, and then to get all the financing straight because we have to go through a third-party financing company. So it did take 4 months, and actually since then there was some major issues with their end of the business, so we've been kind of still working on it. It's been almost a year now, and it's just been constant, just tons of hours of work. And but they keep buying more policies, and they have 3 different companies that we take care of, and it is a lot of work.
So I don't know if it's a lot of work is good or bad, so I don't know. But I will put this up there. Most people have heard of the 80-20 rule. So when I got to speak this weekend, this was really cool. I speak on early stage funding in your startup. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So it's about market research and feasibility. And then I do a sales class on somebody has to get checks. And so I had one of the guys had heard me speak before, and he was we talked about all money is not created equal. There are some people that could invest in your business. You don't want their money. Okay? There are some prospects that you don't want. I don't know if you've ever had one. Have you? But I've had some clients that hired me, and I was like, oh my God, when can I finish this? I mean, I wanted to give them their money back because they were this thing that 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your headaches comes from 20% of your clients. That piece. So what this gentleman actually shared is his business has been around for 10 years, and he has some clients that have been with him for 10 years. But he realized that most of the challenges in his business came from that 80% of his challenges came from that small number of clients. And they were smaller clients who really weren't growing. They were just they were kind of in this comfort space. And many of them had been with his company for a long time because he has really great service, but they weren't growing and they were taking a lot of time. So what he did is he kind of packaged those clients together, and he went to another company that was new, that he knew the owners of, that were doing great work, and he sold that book of business to that younger company who's looking to grow, who's in the position. I know, is that good? That was good, because his company now is in a place where they're doing larger enterprise type solutions. And so he partnered those smaller clients that were right here with somebody who could really service them. And then his team could focus on the bigger clients. And because he had a good relationship with those clients that were being served, they didn't feel bad when he went and said, as we're going through different changes in our company, we think that because of how we're changing to better serve your needs, we're working on a partnership with this company here. And so the clients weren't offended, and they're still getting their needs met. Wasn't that a good idea? So now let me check the time it is. We're going to talk about making money in the next couple of minutes before you guys go. Okay, so we have your revenue model. You have, let me do it like this. So we have certain things that you have that are products or services. So we have product 1, product 2, product 3. I'm going to make this shorter. I'm trying to figure out how I want this diagram to go. 1, 2, 3. So, who has, I bet Eric, do you have different sizes of packages for your customers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, let's, does anybody else want to volunteer besides Eric? As my guinea pig? No. Okay. So, Eric, you have different sizes of packages for your customers. Okay. So, can you give me an idea what the first one is?
Well, most of our stuff's really custom, but there's.
So, do you have something that you start with?
Sure, we have.
Actually, let's do this.
We have entry level packages that are $200 a month.
So we have an entry-level package at $200 a month. Okay? And then you have another package here that's kind of mid-level.
We have, we have mid-level packages that are in the $500 to $800 a month.
Okay? And then you have, now he has custom packages.
Most of the custom packages are going to run around $2,000 a month.
Okay. Okay. So Eric has different packages that he sells. Small, medium, and large. Okay. So what he's done is he's taken it from the one-time product sale. Okay. So I can get one of these one-time product, and he's meeting his needs, the needs at an entry level, a mid-level, and then a custom level. Okay? So to increase revenue, so Eric has a couple of things. He can move somebody from this level here, up here, by providing more value. He could have, now some people try to be everything to everybody, but he could increase value because over here, okay, without adding, he could increase value to his clients without adding something to his packages by looking at a strategic partnership. Does anybody have partners that you work with? You do? So I have a client that was looking at the things that she did, and one of our objectives was to identify the people that she could outsource things to. That this person would be an expert in this. Okay? Okay, so then this can earn kind of like affiliate. Is everybody familiar with that term? Affiliate value without having to actually in-house that work. Another way, so Eric can either increase each one of these sales, so he can increase this, this entry level by moving them from the 200, 500 or here, or he can increase the number of times. So he can have a partner who brings in additional services. He can increase the number of times that he does that sale. So let's imagine that these entry level packages, this is a one-time deal. This is a one-time deal. So he can have partners that provide additional value. He can increase the number of times that he does that deal. And then he can look and say, what are the needs in this $200 package? What are the additional needs that my client has? Now, Ginger, what do you, did I get that right? Wendy. What do you do? You're a certified financial planner. So what kind of ways so we have 2 financial planners here. 3? You are too?
Yeah, we're financial planners.
But you sell businesses.
No, that was the other girl. So I'm safe planning. Financial planners, and we do Medicaid eligibility.
Okay, so I have everybody's. We should put your business on. Okay, so we have the certified financial planners. How else, you guys help people with their finances. Okay, how else could you provide value? Does anybody have any suggestions? They help people put together finances. Is that just with individuals? Mm-hmm. Do you help people, like we were talking about? Yes.
Tax season, they always call me and they want to have all these tax questions, and I'm like, I'm not your CPA. I can't, and so I do have to refer them on to somebody else, and then they have all these legal questions because they think we're attorneys, and I'm like, I'm not an attorney, and then I have to refer them on to our attorneys or our CPAs. They think because we do financial planning, we know everything.
And you refer them to a locksmith too.
Yeah, and then the one safes for safe planning, I have to know a safe company.
Okay. Brilliant, because Joanne's going to be here next week. She'll be solving that. But actually, are we allowed to invite guests, Bernie?
We hope we will.
Yes. So besides the fact that you can invite them next week to join us at Comtank when Joanne is here, who's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so how could we provide more value? Do the rest of you get the same kind of issues?
Yeah.
Tax and legal. Okay, so how I would provide more value to my clients if I were a certified financial planner, and I like to get the most return on investment. Not only would I service where's my COI? Let me put in a different color here. Not only would I service the clients that I have, okay, because you have a lot of people, all 3 of you have a lot of people that you know that aren't your clients, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at several things, you're looking at servicing your clients. Okay, are we looking at increasing the value that we bring to our clients, and increasing our book of business? So prospects to clients. Okay, what I would do, because it happens the same time every year, right? It's seasonal. Okay, is it predominantly in this time? Is it before the end of the year they're looking to make preparations, or right after?
Oh, ours isn't really seasonal.
No, so it's not seasonal. Is yours more seasonal?
No, not really.
So people ask you questions about tax and legal all the time?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I would put it on my season based on how busy I am, and what I would do is I would use one of the meeting rooms, and I would invite my current clients, who, if they're happy with you, would be raving fans. And I would invite some of your prospects, people that are on your list, and I would invite your tax and lawyer people to come in and provide a free seminar, do some coffee and whatever, and just say, you want to know what? I have clients. You guys ask me these questions, okay? And I feel that there's probably similar needs. And so we're actually going to invest in bringing in a lawyer this time or a CPA this time, or we're going to bring in somebody like that so that I can provide service to my clients. I can do it instead of on a one-by-one basis. I can actually educate them, and I can utilize it as a prospecting tool. Okay, Eric can either move somebody down here. He can increase the number of times that they purchase this. He can find a partner who can meet some of their needs that he doesn't specifically need. He can provide extra value to his clients by doing some sort of workshop, and they may pay him for that workshop, right? Have you ever done a workshop with your clients and invited them all in and said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to bring somebody else in, and we're going to do an intensive workshop, and it's $150 for the day or whatever. So he could increase revenue. What?
Not that cheap.
So whatever. He could increase revenue through adding another service that would service his clients, that he could bring prospects in. He could bring in one of his partners. He doesn't actually have to be the one who teaches the class, does he? He could bring in Bernie to talk about something. He could be Richard to talk into something that serves the needs of his clients. He could develop additional revenue. He could use it as an additional prospecting tool. So when we look at how we get, we increase money and the amount of revenue that we're bringing in, and not leave money on the table, we need to look at what are our current service offerings. Are they one at a time? So if Eric was doing this one at a time, $200. An entry level to work with Eric was $200, and I paid that once. I would say, how can I do that more than once? So let's say that this service wasn't $200 a month, but that was entry level. So somebody came to work with me and they gave me $200. I'd say, well, if I, like you probably do upgrades on people's sites, right? Maintenance. Okay? So then maybe quarterly, somebody would need to have maintenance, and I could add that as an option. You know, let's say that was $50 4 times a year, because that's an additional service that I could provide. So when I'm looking at how do I increase revenue, like Hassan, when somebody buys something from you, is it a one-time purchase?
That's correct. And most of it is one time. There is no recurring revenue. In a normal business, in my kind of business, in bigger companies, people try to put maintenance contract, which is 5%, 10%. That's what the investment goes for. I don't go for that business.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I cannot compete in that level.
Right. It's too labor intensive. You'd have to be a bigger company. So yours is a one-time purchase of the tools and software. But does your industry change on a regular basis? I mean, are there things in security that are happening all the time?
I mean, technology changes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's the way you do it, the upgrade. Sometimes people charge for it.
Mm-hmm.
We choose to do it free as a value, and for our existing customers to feel that they're protected with us. Like with the product, if we have an firmware upgrade, we get it for free.
So they feel safe with you because you do those upgrades for free. How long do you do upgrades for free? Is there a place where you change out things?
There are what's called maintenance upgrade, and there is a feature upgrade. Maintenance upgrade, if there is a problem, we know that needs to be taken care of.
Right.
Something feature to be done. There is no set time for it. Maybe once a year, once 2 years, whatever. It's nothing.
But you could facilitate that and say to your clients that very often in the beginning, very often people look at doing an upgrade in about 2 years. We'll stay in touch if there's any challenges. I'll let you know about this, and I'll check with you. You could have some kind of communication with them to facilitate that. Do you already?
It's a way to keep in relation with the customer.
Right.
Although you can charge for it, we choose to do it free because it's a way that we can talk to the customer without an excuse. You know?
Right. You can send them a newsletter every quarter that lets them know on some of the things that are going on. You may add a different type of service or a different type of tool or equipment that goes along with that, so that it's not just a one-time sale. If you're not keeping touch with the COI, and then you might provide a referral program that could help people, that when it's time for your upgrade, or how do you share that information of what they have, which could produce additional revenue. So, does anybody have any questions when in looking at your business on how maybe you could make it more seasonal, maybe tie it all together? We talked about you enough, Joe.
I don't know. It's a mystery to me. As far as trying to make it into more predictable, I guess anticipating, just trying to figure out those goals of clients, figure out what their actual schedules are and what their trickle points are, and then try to anticipate that. And also pick certain events that might trigger more business, and then reach that out to other clients and see if they're participating in those events.
So to be able to check and survey with them. So my challenge to you all is to look at how you provide value and look at what are the things that you directly get paid for, the things that people actually purchase, like the smile and the attitude and the team that we get when we come to comm centers. Look at the seasons that you have and see if you can help your clients get onto a seasonal piece, which will facilitate your production and allow you to be able to provide better service for them. Look for strategic partners that will be able to provide value to your clients that you may not be an expert in, and really look at center of influence. That cost of acquisition, like my client in real estate is able to tell you, if you actually keep in contact with this person, what that means instead of going out and looking for a new sale time after time. And then I challenge you to be different. Because if it's all equal, if you're just a transactional vendor, it becomes all about price. And then next week, Joanne Kuntz is going to be here talking about legal and tax issues for cleaning up for the end of the year. And after that, wave your hand, Eric. Eric will be back sharing with how to put movement to your message. Look at how you're making money, the different ways that you can provide value. Tweak your message. When you come back to Eric, he can show you on how to make it move forward better, faster, quicker.